Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm at the University of Georgia. We're right in the heart of the South, deep South really. And I do work with organic growers. So today though, the topic is, and I want to keep this pretty focused, is minimizing those diseases that are carried on seed. And as a seed grower, if you are sharing your seed or just for personal use, but especially if you are marketing that, you have certain guarantees that you should be giving to the buyer is that, well, it's true to type, and last talk on pollination and you know, there's a lot of that goes into that you're selling something it's true to what, and germination rate is important. But another one is that you're not passing on something that is going to be devastating to the people buying, and there aren't many of those. So let me get into this. So what is a seed? So why didn't it do anything? Huh? Why is it that Microsoft has so many versions of PowerPoint? Stuck?
It's trying to go to full screen.
Maybe if you resume slideshow, maybe I did something up there. No?
Is the power on the switcher?
Yep.
No, that was, I thought oh, did you get it?
Well, it's switching on the computer, but not on you.
I know.
Yep. Let's go. There we go.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Always something. All right, so just to define what I'm talking about. So these are, seed-borne diseases are various organisms that are carried with or on the seed, and some of which may damage the seed, but most of which create a plant disease in the next generation. So we both have diseases that we need to battle when we're producing a crop, be it a seed crop, to make sure you have enough healthy plants. But then there are others you need to also prevent those diseases from being carried on the seed. So, and then if you're propagating, vegetatively propagating, seed is actually a natural barrier to a lot of disease, especially viruses, most viruses. Whereas vegetatively propagated materials, sweet potatoes, whatever, anything in the mother plant is going to be in the daughter plant. So you need to be especially careful, and they have a lot of certification systems for that. All right, so there are different levels of care. So it can be seed-borne. We can find, so when we call something seed-borne, that means some plant pathologist has found the propagules on the seed. So, but there's different levels of risk here. And so the one we're really concerned about is that the infected seed is the primary source of the disease, and also how devastating it is. But so if you control seed infection or contamination, you control the whole disease. So there are examples of that. And then others may be early blight. For number 2. Early blight, if you've grown a tomato, you're familiar with early blight.
Yes.
In the southeast. So this one, it can be on the seed, but I'm not convinced that's the most important source of inoculum, because it usually doesn't show up for a while. So, and then you can read for yourself here. So, and then there are others. There is, okay, so there are a few examples. I'll have a list. Black rot's one that comes to mind, especially in brassicas, where you just don't want to be selling seed with this on it. And you don't want to be growing it. If you find it, you need to destroy the crop. No questions asked. Don't even, cart off the plant somewhere, get them out of there. So there's only a few of those. Another I just discussed it may not be the only source. And with these fungal diseases, you're talking about spores, big spores on the seeds. They're a little easier to deal with than bacteria as far as treatments.
I have a quick question for Claire.
Yeah,
Oh, can we ask a question?
Sure.
It's related to this.
sure.
Okay. So as far as, you're basically saying that seeds have them inside? I mean, in other words, you can't wash off these.
All right, so good question. I would say most of these fungal, well, most are contaminating the outside. Some get under the seed coat. Bacteria are notorious for that. So some actually invade certain smut and diseases can get into kernels, has mycelium, but they're usually on the outside, yes. This is where, and when I talk about seed treatments, it'll become more relevant, but am I answering your question? Some can actually infect the seed. Most are contaminating the seed, but bacteria are notorious for finding a place to hide so you can't get rid of them.
Okay.
So viruses would be a different matter. There's a few virus-borne, and they would, simple seed treatments don't take care of those. They're pretty much infecting the seed. All right, so this is not an exhaustive list of important seed-borne diseases. These are the diseases on plants that we would tend to grow to produce seed in the southeast. And we don't produce a lot of, say, Apiaceae, carrot seeds, or anything like that. So these are the crops as a seed grower and the diseases you might encounter. Anyway, so solanation is always a lot of problems. In fact, I've never seen tomato mosaic virus personally.
Yeah, I'm surprised you don't have fusarium on tomatoes because I've got a personal example of seed-borne fusarium.
What kind of fusarium?
Those are my plants that's doing. So I saved the seed from a fall that had fusarium in my garden. Figured fermentation would kill it. Started seeds, put it in a straw bed, brand new straw bed, died of fusarium. And really the only
Fusarium what? Wilt?
fusarium wilt, yeah. Wilted plant, bright yellow foliage,
Yeah.
dead as a doornail. So.
All right, well, we can debate that one. at
Yeah,
some other
I would love
time.
to, because I'm
But,
trying to figure out what's going on.
I mean, so, no, that is not something I see. There's a
Okay.
lot of that with that, yes. It's usually soil-borne,
Yeah, that's what I'm
and
trying to
so it gets around though, and there's no guarantee it's not that hay bale. I've had all, various things.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Thanks for that.
gummy stem blight is a huge problem if you, commercial cucurbits down in Georgia at least, probably up here. But I've never seen it in organic production, and this is the beauty of the organic production system, that a lot of commercial diseases aren't as much of a problem because we employ those organic practices of rotations, intense rotations, diversity, etc. You mentioned watermelon and acidoborax.
Bacteria lots. I've never
Yeah,
seen it, but
I've never seen it in organics either, so I don't know. So, anyway, so bacterial, now beans is an interesting one. This is where, so these things, bacterial blight, they have a lot of seed companies out west, or, the larger national ones will not accept seed when the plants were infected with bacterial blight. And this is where, though, that growing things that are adapted to the southeast, southern peas and this, they don't get these things. And so sticking with plants that don't get these diseases of concern, I mean, you just shouldn't grow western beans, dry beans here, and expect to sell them to a western company. So, all right, black rot, alternaria, I'll talk about these things. Fusarium is, and aspergillus are the two that make those toxins in those crops. Anyway, so I can't go into a lot of explicit detail, but there are these organisms that also are carried on seed, and these are the ones you need also to be concerned about. They're not plant pathogens in particular, but things like Aspergillus fusarium, they're more, they degrade the seed and can kill seedlings. And this is the ones you need to pay attention to during harvesting and drying. And these can develop a lot and destroy the quality and germination of your seed, how you handle them, as well as growing them. That one's cold toptricum on beans there, but again, if you need to, where do I have this? You know, you really need to establish with your seed, if you're selling your seed, what are they accepting, what are they not, what are they concerned about for a particular variety. And again, some beans, you're not going to get any of these problems, anthracnose and such, if you stick with ones that are adapted. Of course, most aren't. All right, so a little bit about how this works. And some of the most notorious seed-borne diseases are bacteria. And I'm a bacteriologist by training, a plant bacteriologist. And they are survivors, and the main way they do get around is on seed. They don't, they will survive in debris in the soil, but the main source is often the seed. And the other concept here is that seed-borne diseases are usually worse on those crops that you're producing transplants, because you can have a very small amount of pathogen on the seed, and it'll proliferate under these conditions. This is celery. That's Seed-Borne. We have someone in our department who works on that. But so anything, if you see it developing on both of these, the seeds, you really should not plant it, basically, or consider not planting it. But this is a picture after irrigation. These people were using high-impact irrigation, and it was driving the bacteria into the seed. But anyway, it's all about with bacteria moisture management. And so, first of all, you've got to try to start with clean seed, but also you don't want it to proliferate in the transplant houses and then move it out to the field. So even though there may be just a couple seeds with bacteria, by the time you finish growing the transplants, it can have spread. And the other thing about bacteria is that they can proliferate and be there, and you don't really know it. So keeping moisture down, watering early in the day so they dry quickly, minimizing high pressure spray, minimizing nitrogen. Bacteria love plants that are have a lot of, that are nice and succulent for nitrogen. So growing transplants and give them plenty of sun or at a time when they'll grow quickly. So inspecting your it all starts with inspecting your transplants. And this is an example of a seed-borne bacteria. This is black rot, and this is one, I've seen this in action. These are my pictures. And every once in a while, people start getting bad seed lots. This is one most seed companies guarantee, to some extent, that it's not there. And the allowable level, now this is more of a, large seed company, but there are places that test your seed for this. And a lot of times they're doing these grow out tests. And the allowable limit is 1 seed in 30,000 with the bacterium. And above that, you have the potential for an outbreak. So you just don't want it, you don't want to, am I supposed to be talking into this?
Everyone here knows
Just imagine talking.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you're recording or something.
I've got a comment.
And I'm probably messing that up because I move around. Anyway, I want to show you 2 examples here of xanthomonas diseases. And this is goes to show you've got to get a reliable diagnosis. Plant disease is one of the most misunderstood things I find with growers. It's very mysterious and all, and you can't always, even I have to take things back to the lab to diagnose. So it's not like insects, you can just look at it and say, hey. So, but black rot, just to show you, comes in through the pores at the end of the veins on the leaf in those gutaceous drops in the morning. It hangs out on the surface of the plant, and that's why you get these V-shaped lesions. And this is what happens. Does anyone ever experience this disease? And it spreads everywhere, and it's pretty devastating. And you definitely don't want to harvest seed because it'll get into the seed. You have any of this around, it's in the seed. So you are growing plants, and so it starts with you'll often see it in the transplants. And I've seen, yes.
How far, like if you have like one seed crop of brassicas and you have another seed crop of brassicas like 300 feet away, is it gonna get into that?
Well, maybe not, but if you start seeing it, you should get it out as soon as possible. How about that?
Burn it? If you burn it, does it go into the air?
I would just put it in, bury it, I don't know, get it out of there. No, you don't want, it's that whole thing. I mean, this is also good growing practices. You should never plant brassicas in the same field more than once every 3 years. You should get rid of all this debris at the end of the season as much as possible and haul it out of there somewhere where it's going to quickly decompose. And you could even compost it. It doesn't matter with bacteria, but usually I don't tell people to compost disease things because some of you don't want to, those fungal soil-borne guys.
If you remove the diseased plants before they've started to flower, are you safe? Can you save seeds from the survivors?
It's there.
Okay.
This thing moves like crazy. I would say you should talk to your seed buyer about that issue. First of all, get a diagnosis, because I want to show you something else. So see the name here, Xanthomonas campestris, that's a species. And then there's a subspecies campestris that is specific that does this. And this one, Raffini, is just a leaf spotter, but it can be very confusing. See how closely related they are? And this one is not good either.
Is it Seed-Borne?
It kind of, but it's a leaf spotter. So if you're growing, say, Russian kale, your crop's messed up.
Is it Seed-Borne?
Probably, probably. But it's only in wet years you really see this stuff take off. And, yeah.
I just have a story. I had some seeds that I gave to someone that ended up having black rot on them, and they told me about it. And then what I did was hot water treat them, and then I sent them in to get tested, and the test came back good. It came back clean. So it just it's really easy to do hot water treatment, either on seeds that you don't know the source, the seeds that you're planting, but also those seeds that I hot water treated, they stayed good for a couple of years. They didn't lose their germination.
Yeah, so that's an option. I'll talk about that in a minute. Edmund does it routinely, so I'll talk about it from my perspective. And he can talk about how to do it easily. Anyway, this is the importance, you should use your state diagnostic services. They may not always be able to give you the best organic recommendations for management, but they do have reliable diagnostic services that you should use, especially something like this, if it's that important, because this one you don't really necessarily have to destroy. And I don't see this all this often, but it is fairly common, and it can cause cosmetic damage. This one, the difference is, and actually if you know what you're looking for, eventually you can see the difference. This one starts going down the veins, it's called black rot, the veins turn black, and then it becomes systemic and you quickly get this deal. This is just an isolated leaf spot like early blight, anything else. So with a trained eye, you know, because actually to confirm this in the lab takes molecular PCR fingerprinting. All right, somebody asked about bacterial spot. It's more of a problem on peppers, and you don't get it in a huge amount on tomatoes. In a wet year, you'll get it. And yes, it's seed-borne, and the jury's still out on how important that source is, that you're going to get it no matter what eventually. So yes, it is seed-borne. It's one you could, if you're treating your seed, but it's probably going to come in from other areas as well.
So an interesting anecdote about this is 2 years ago, I grew a lot of sweet peppers in containers. Every pepper had a bacterial spot that year, everyone. Last year, and I saved seeds, didn't treat them. Last year, I didn't have a single incidence, even planting plants from saved seed. So it seemed to come in and attack me one year.
All right, you just hit on an important point here, especially with all diseases, especially bacterial diseases. Dry air, you're not going to get it.
Okay.
So it's they need a lot of moisture, and that's why they proliferate in the transplant houses, because it's always wet and warm. And so think about that. You want to keep it tough in there for the bacteria when you're starting your transplant for any disease, even or crop.
So there's a real interaction between weather and conditions and disease expression.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's all
here.
tied to moisture with plant
Okay.
disease. They need moisture to proliferate and infect. They
Okay.
cannot infect without moisture. For fungi, you need like 8 to plus hours of constant leaf wetness to infect. The spore lands on the plant, but it's going to do nothing unless it has 8 plus hours of constant leaf wetness. Sort of the same, bacteria proliferate. They're hanging out there. They're there, just hanging out as epiphytes, feeding on stuff. But it's when it gets wet and the leaves get congested, they start releasing nutrients and they proliferate, and then they go down into the stomata and roots. So again, these probably seed-borne, but I'm not convinced that it's the major source. It usually takes a while for them to, you don't usually see it for a while. So there are a lot of methods for it, but of course this can devastate your seed crop. If you grow tomatoes outside, most years this is going to whole, mulching, make that tomato as happy as possible. Good. Now, of course, you could consider growing tomatoes and peppers in a high tunnel if you had that space, and that could avoid a lot of this. So, but it's not always possible. This one on the brass, because it's more of a, since we grow it, it's cool season crop in Georgia. We don't use ultimaries a hot season. Okay, I'm almost done. Have I gone over? Oh. I knew that. So, okay, lots of good stuff here. Okay, just quickly about hot water treatment. Hot water is more effective than bleach. So I've heard talks from various people at growers. Some use the bleaching. I'll talk about bleaching in a minute. There are problems with using bleach. So this is effective. And it can get under the seed coat, so it can be effective on bacterial diseases if done correctly. But the thing is, you have to be able to control the temperature in this hot water bath pretty accurately. And you can't do large seeded crops; you'll destroy them. Curvets, things like that. But the important ones to treat, as Edmund mentioned, are the solanaceous and the brassicas are the ones that we should be treating if you want to treat them. So if you're a seed grower, treating your seeds before you plant, you can maybe avoid some of these problems. So with, anyway, there it is. There are, and Edmund can show you in the interims, his little low-tech set up, but you have to be able to maintain this 50 degrees Celsius and Celsius. Now, if you ask about steam treatment, and the problem is the steam is pretty hot, and so I'm not sure, you know, 50 degrees is only halfway to boiling. And so this has been worked out, the time and temperature, so there's a fine line between killing the pathogen and killing the seed. So it's important that you, and here's high-tech shaking water bath, accurate temperature hopefully, another low-tech, and, but you can go even lower tech than that, but something to maintain the temperature. Agitation is good. At the end here I have some resources with more details on that. I don't know if you get to see this. Bleach, some people swear by bleach because you just gotta buy yourself a container of Clorox and but you have to check with your certifier first because according to the rules, this is, you know, it's hard to interpret whether this is legal or not for organic production, plus it's a toxic compound. And it's not as effective as, it'll kill surface stuff, you know, fungi and stuff, but it's not as effective as the hot water. So, here you go. Yeah.
A very quick question on the precision. So 50 degrees Celsius, I did some of this, is 122 Fahrenheit. So if you take the seeds to 125 or 127, have people looked at the absolute limits and the precision needed? Or if you go over 8 degrees, your seed's likely going to be fine? Does anybody
It
have those
depends on the
things?
seed, well, I'm sure they have, and they've reached this point where they've determined how hot you can get and still have good germination.
The question is
So, yes,
how to
you
find
take
that information is the key because it's everywhere. It's disparate on the internet, so to have.
Well, you gotta go to a research education,
Okay, yeah.
EDU publication, and there are, so ASTA probably, the Association of Seed Technologists,
Mhm.
I'm sure has published protocols, and if I can find that information, actually.
Cornell has one that's pretty good.
Yeah, there's a seed organization, ASTA, I think it is, right? I'm done.
Great.
So, is that why you're signaling it,
Yeah,
signaling me
let's
there?
look at that.
Yeah.
So,
I'll just say that if, I'm gonna check with all the speakers at the end of this, and if they're willing, whoever's
Okay, you
willing,
can have it.
I'll put the slideshows up on, if we have a Google Drive.
I was posting some.
And there are also, I put up these, none of these really work as well, although they may have other beneficial things. So this might be the one you were talking about here. So I can't imagine you would steam seeds. It'd be too hot.
I think high mowing, Tom Stearns at high mowing has been experimenting with it
Oh,
in conjunction with, folks at University of Vermont. Dr. Tom Stearns, he's done a bunch of research on steam treatment, but not much of it's public yet.
Sorry to cut in on your time.
Thank you.
Who's next?